The last part of internal audit process is the performance evaluation and monitoring. Performance evaluation and monitoring. Periodically, assessing performance and addressing opportunities for improvement can help maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of the internal audit function. Measuring performance is also the means by which the internal audit unit's own performance is assessed and the internal audit is held accountable for the use of its resources. By adopting appropriate indicators, implementing a rigorous performance measurement system, and acting on the results, internal audit can demonstrate that it can practices what it preaches, and thus encourage acceptance of its role within the LGU. The LCE is responsible periodically reviewing the performance of the internal audit services. They would normally approve the performance indicators used. Performance evaluation and monitoring. Steps in performance evaluation. First is the determination of KPIs. It is important that the key performance indicators for internal audit are aligned with the strategic plan and the annual work plan, and help drive the performance that the organization expects from the ES. It is also important that performance is measured over time in order to identify trends, and the performance is measured against both qualitative and quantitative factors. KPIs includes measurements of the ES accomplished per audit engagements, such as timely completion of each audit engagement, benefits exceed the cost of audit is within the approved budget, number of audit findings is approved by the department head or the local chief executive, number of recommendations implemented by the auditee, and the number of audit support undertaken, and lastly is the internal audit satisfaction and the overall contribution made by the ES. In the design of performance monitoring, the ES should design performance reports forms to collect data in between and during each audit engagement and audit support activities. This is aligned with the KPIs. The report form should provide for the relevant information regarding the ES performance outputs on per engagement basis summarized on a periodic basis. So, preparation for the evaluation report. It is good for the ES to prepare an evaluation report on its performance after an audit engagement for the information and advice of the local chief executive. Performance evaluation and monitoring. The performance monitoring, the ES shall have primary responsibility over the work performance and discipline of the staff. He or she shall direct the conduct of audit progress assessment based on the monitoring plan utilizing KPIs, and conduct two types of performance monitoring. First is the review of progress assessment report, and then second is completion of assessment report. The review of progress assessment report focuses on whether or not audit objectives are met as reflected in the audit findings and recommendations. Findings and recommendations are based on facts and substantial evidence and in compliance with the relevant laws, rules, and regulations. It complies with the internal auditing standards set by the DBM rules and regulations. Findings and recommendations promote the adequacy of internal control pursuant to the DBM rules and regulations. High standards of ethics and efficiency of public officials and employees are observed pursuant to CSC rules and regulations. The progress assessment report shall be subject to the approval of the ES head. The audit team leaders shall ensure the audit engagement are assessed at a stage before the exit conference. So, the review of completion assessment report. The completion report focus on the overall effectiveness and efficiency of the ES in accordance with DBM rules and regulations and agency policies and standards. Findings and recommendations which are based on facts and substantial evidence and compliance with relevant laws, rules, and regulations, and application of internal auditing standards pursuant to DBM rules and regulations. Findings and recommendations which promote the adequacy of internal control pursuant to DBM rules and regulations. High standards of ethics and efficiency of public officials and employees are observed pursuant to CSC and rules and regulations. The completion assessment report shall be subject to the approval of the ES head. audit team leader shall ensure that audit engagements are assessed at the conclusion of the activity. Performance evaluation and monitoring. Performance evaluation by the local chief executive, the LCE being directly responsible for the installation, implementation, and monitoring of the internal control system, shall review the adequacy of the internal audit as part of the ICS. Work performance of the ES is evaluated by the LCE as part of the supervision and control. They shall monitor and evaluate the performance of the ES either through first review and approval of the internal audit report or review and approval of the ES performance report. The review of internal audit report at the conclusion of each audit engagement, the ES submits to the LCE an internal audit memorandum and the internal audit report. They be prepared in conformity with the PGM, NJCES, and other relevant issuances of the DBM. On the other hand, the review of the ES performance report. At the close of every fiscal year, the LCE shall review the performance of the ES to the various reports outputs, such as baseline assessment report, assessment of internal audit risk report, annual audit plan, audit engagement report, audit follow-up report, performance monitoring evaluation report, that are submitted to the office of the local chief executive.